Now hold on, it's not an anniversary, we don't have anything specific to celebrate here on the channel, and yet I have a Scale 200 aircraft model here for review. Well, this is something I can only do thanks to the help of our great sponsor and partner here on the channel, Jumbolino Model, where you can find nice models like this and many others as part of their ongoing sale, but they have also permanently lowered their prices, so not related to a Black Monday or Black Weeks or whatever you want to call it. So do check them out, I can highly recommend them to you. You can find a link to them in the video description below. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where today we'll take a closer look at an Airbus A350-900 of Lufthansa. At the front of the box we have a lovely image of the real aircraft. Above that we find the Lufthansa branding. Now it's funny to see what is possible in Scale 200 with Herpa Wings, because also on the backside we have this lovely image of the aircraft once again. We again have the Lufthansa branding. We can also see that it is an officially licensed product. That's also not always the case with Herpa, so that's really nice that it is in this case. And overall a really nice box design, where you can also open up the lid here at the front, reveals a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside. And then we have this rather detailed explanation as to the interior of the real aircraft. Of course, the model itself does not have an interior. They're basically introducing the new cabin layout of Lufthansa on their wide-body fleet. And before we get further into today's review, it is worth mentioning that the Scale 200 Herpa Wings model does come with a stand made entirely out of plastic, but it does have a little print. That's quite nice. And so here she is, the Scale 200 Airbus A350-900 in the current standard livery of Lufthansa from Herpa Wings, a 2025 release from Herpa. Now, I have said it many times before that the Scale 200 lineup of Herpa Wings confuses me quite a bit, but we'll get into that more later in this video. For now, we simply focus on this 2025 release to see what Herpa has come up with on this A350 XWB in Scale 200. And as always, we start our tour around the aircraft model with a look at the tail section, where we on the vertical stabilizer have the Lufthansa branding. We do even have a little bit of detailing here on the horizontal stabilizer. And if we then move on to the fuselage, we find the full registration code of the aircraft. We find the German flag, the flag of the European Union. We also have some nice printed detailing in the cabin door, and even a little bit of physical detailing in form of a ridge just above that. It is hard to see, but it is actually there. Just like we also at the very tail of the aircraft find a lovely combination of physical and printed detailing in form of the APU exhaust. Now at the front of the aircraft and across the fuselage, we then have the writing of Lufthansa. The nice thing to notice here is that the blue tone here is the same as on the tail. That's not always the case with Herpa Wings models. Underneath that we have the aircraft type specification and the name of the aircraft. The aircraft is named after the German city of Leipzig. Then next to the cabin doors we have these small yellow squares, the last remaining yellow branding of Lufthansa on the aircraft. Again, lovely detailing in the cabin doors. We also have the Star Alliance logo, of which the airline is a full member. Furthermore, we find some static ports. That's a great, lovely little printed detailing. Also, the cockpit section itself has a fair amount of detailing in form of, for example, the paddle tubes, again some static ports. We have the Lufthansa logo, the black Neo mask around the cockpit windows, with the cockpit windows, of course, and the window wipers as well. And above that, we find the emergency hatch for the cockpit. What Herpa could or perhaps should have added here as well as the printed detailing would have been a little bit more detailing around the radome. Now, if we take a look at the engine nacelles, we can see they have been kept in all white, just as most of the fuselage, but we do actually have a pretty decent amount of printed detailing on those. In form of the silver leading edge, we have the safety markings and a few more markings here underneath. That actually I think looks really lovely, and also in combination with some physical detailing here, really lovely work from Herpa Wings. And yeah, overall I really think they have done a nice job with these engines on the A350. Also from the front with the engine fan blades, and notice also the printed detail of the spinner. Very nice. Oh my god, look at all these lovely models. Oh, I'm sorry that I interrupted your review, but we'll get back to that model in just a second. But just check out all these lovely models. And perhaps you're like me and you just don't know which one you should add next to your collection, because here you're truly spoiled for choice with all the scales and all the die-cast manufacturers that you can find at the Jumbolino Model store. So do check them out. You can find a link to them in the video description below. Now, from the engines, we can move on to the wings. They are also worth taking a closer look at. Starting over the top side, where we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. We have the markings as to where to walk on the wing, both in form of the lines and also in form of writing. Very nice indeed. The underside of the wings then has more nice physical detailing, and of course the A350 also has these really lovely curved winglets, where we again find the Lufthansa branding or logo has been printed on. My favorite detail, and how could it be any different, is of course the addition of the landing lights as a printed detail. The landing gear is a combination of metal and plastic parts here, where the rest of the aircraft of course is made out of plastic. Overall, I think the landing gear looks quite nice. We have some lovely detailing in form of, for example, the wheel caps. That's overall really lovely. Also, the front landing gear, not too shabby. And we even have some printed details here, which I'm very happy about. And should it be a feature that you are looking for in your Scale 200 aircraft models, then I can report to you here, as you can see, yes, it comes with rolling wheels. Actually works quite well on this aircraft model. So if you like to toy around with your Scale 200 models, you can do so. On the belly of the aircraft, we have more nice physical and printed detailing. Yes, there is also a hole here in the fuselage, but as we saw, there is of course a stand included with it, and it doesn't really destroy much here in terms of printed detailing. The physical detailing, well, that's kind of the ram intakes, and we do also find a few antennas here on the belly as well. On the top of the fuselage here, we also have some physical antennas as well as some sat domes and some beacon lights printed on. So yeah, overall a decent combination of physical and printed detailing overall here on the fuselage of this aircraft. And then last but certainly not least, we can also see that Herpa has printed on the doors to the cargo compartments here at the back of the aircraft, and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A350-900 in the standard livery of Lufthansa from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 200. And what can we say about this aircraft model? While I often have the feeling that Herpa deliberately is holding back on us when it comes to detailing, that is of course very much the case in scale 500. It's much less for me with this aircraft model, because when I look at the A350 in real life and compare it with this aircraft model, I think in terms of detailing, Herpa is actually pretty close to what we would see in real life. In terms of printed detailing, the only thing I really was missing was a little bit of detailing around the radome at the very nose of the aircraft, but apart from that, I think they have done a fairly decent job. Also in terms of the physical detailing, I really like their form for the A350 here in scale 200. That is much, much better than what we see in scale 500 from Herpa Wings. And I do also think they have done a really or especially nice job around the engines. That looks really fantastic. The combination of the physical and printed detailing here, that is really lovely. And if you are now starting to get a little bit confused because you hear me actually saying something positive about the Herpa Wings model for once, yeah, I get the feeling. I'm also a little bit confused. But actually, I think this is overall, when we just look at the model, really not bad work from Herpa Wings. I quite like it. But yet, of course, I can't really leave you without any criticism of this aircraft model, because it is still really rather confusing. In fact, Herpa Wings in their kind of premium scale 200 line, because they of course also have their snap fit line, which is also scale 200, but they're just overall very confusing with it. I have made a video where I go much more into depth why I think Herpa is confusing, and if you are interested in that, I highly recommend you to watch it. It should pop up in the top right corner right now, or you can find a link to it in the video description below. But let me just say this. Would you, if you know that the model in front of you is made entirely out of plastic, pay 110 euros recommended retail price for this? I doubt it, because for that money or just a little bit more, you can get a full metal model with at least as much detailing as we see here from any other brand. And that is really my biggest problem here, is that the price and what we have in front of us, that doesn't match at all. Yes, the detailing itself is good and the shape and all these things, that's fine, but 110 euros for an all plastic scale 200 model is crazy. And it's also super inconsistent, because Herpa Wings has scale 200 aircraft models which are made out of metal, and you never really know what you're getting. I mean, they have ATRs or A220s, for example. They are made out of metal with Herpa Wings, but then they have their A319, or in this case A350, that is then made out of plastic. So it's super confusing. So had this been a full metal model from Herpa Wings at that price, I would say, yeah, that's fair. That's a good price for a Scale 200 metal model, but it is just not. It is made entirely out of plastic. And then we have the whole issue that this model contains so much white plastic, and if we look at the history of Herpa Wings and white plastics going yellow over time, I'm just nervous around this aircraft model, because how will it look in 5 or 10 years? Will it then still be this lovely white as we see now, or will it have just turned yellow and completely devalued the aircraft model? So yeah, overall just a confusing model yet again from Herpa Wings in Scale 200. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like, or if you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.